Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to go ahead and take a look and talk about The Exorcist 3, starring George C. Scott. Now, this is the 4K Ultra HD set put out by Scream Factory. There is a UK era release as well. And this is a 3-disc set. On 4K, we have the theatrical version of the film, and on Blu ray, we have the theatrical version. And on a third disc, we have the version in Blu ray known as Legion. Now, Legion is more what William Peter Blatty's his version of what he really wanted this film to be. The theatrical cut does actually run about 5 minutes longer than Legion does. Now, I watched both. It was pretty easy to go ahead and check out both films because you can tell, especially with this release, you can tell the quality dips when scenes that are added in for Legion show up on screen. It's easy to go ahead and kind of just skim through and get to those scenes and be able to decipher the differences between both films. Now, for me, I would say the theatrical release is personally the better version of this film. It ties in way more because again, it is The Exorcist, and it ties in way more to the Exorcist film than Legion does. I think Legion does some interesting things, but the things that are added in kind of change the story from being not so much a Exorcist film to being something a little bit more. Now, Brad Dourif is in this film. He plays the Gemini killer, and George C. Scott, who's just an absolute tour de force in any film that he's ever been in. He is, he's a cop, and he's like a lieutenant, and he's trying to track down. There's killings that are going on, and all the killings point to the Gemini killer. But the problem is the Gemini killer was killed many, many years ago. And now there's what people are thinking, oh, maybe it's like a copycat. But he knows there's something that he knows that was never released to the public about the killer that he is seeing on these new victims that is saying, no, something's not right here. There's way too much. There's no way that anybody could know that, the things that the Gemini killer, how he killed his victims, there are things that other than him, nobody could know. So it's one of those, type films. Him kind of like on the track of trying to find out who is killing these people, who's performing these ritual killings on people, like decapitating them. And like I said, it does tie in. We do, we mentioned Father Karras once again in this film, and like I said, Brad Dourif, he is really good. He's really, really good in this film as as the Gemini killer, locked up, in this hospital, in this ward, and how is he getting free? How is he doing these things? And that's where it ties in to The Exorcist, and we have possession and all these different things going on, you know, as far as that character goes. And without spoiling, I mean, yes, granted, it's an older film. I don't want to spoil too many things and spoil, how Father Karras comes back into the picture in the film. Like he died in the first film. How can he come back? Well, there's things to tie in between him and Brad Dourif, and like I said, I think it's a good film. I definitely prefer the theatrical version. Going and watching both films today, because again, it's easy to tell when you're watching Legion because the quality in the film dips down. It's like almost like a VHS tape, parts that are just picked and put into place to fill in to make the Legion version of the film. But for me, the story just it doesn't click. It's just a little bit too different than what you're getting from. It doesn't feel like an Exorcist film. It just feels like a film called Legion. Like that's exactly what it feels like. It doesn't feel like it belongs in the same world as The Exorcist. And so for me, while not a bad film, it's just not my preferred vision of the film. I think some of the dialogue that Dorf, puts out on screen as the killer, as the Gemini killer, something it doesn't feel right. It feels very forced. It feels like he's just looking at the screen and reading off a script. It doesn't like, but the theatrical release, it's like really there. Like he's like really in the moment. And this film has a pretty good climax too. I'd say the Legion version has kind of like it's an okay ending too. It's like, okay, this is how we just ended. All right, that's what they want to do. That's fine. But the theatrical version definitely it's more. it's what you would want from an Exorcist film. It definitely has that, like, that big bombastic kind of ending, fiery. When you see the film, you find out exactly what I'm talking about. But it has that kind of ending where it's like, okay, who's going to triumph? Good versus evil. What's going to happen? I don't think you get that with Legion, but you definitely get it with the theatrical version of this film. And the quality is really good. Scream Factory did a really great job with the release of this film on 4K. So, yeah, I would definitely, if you are a fan of The Exorcist, a fan of horror films, if you haven't seen this one, if you're collecting Scream Factory, 4Ks, I don't think you're gonna go wrong with this one. But again, I would stick with the theatrical version of the film. If you want to have something that really ties in to the first film, the theatrical version is the way to go with this one. And like I said, George C. Scott is absolutely phenomenal as always. He never disappointed. Like I said, he's one of the greatest of all time. So yeah, The Exorcist 3 on 4K from Scream Factory. Guys, like, subscribe, and comment if you get the chance, and I'll catch you in another episode. Take care.